My baby shower was supposed to be about new beginnings, joy, and family. But I turned it into an ending, the day I exposed my husband's betrayal in front of everyone who loved us. My name is Elena.
Elena Rodriguez.
I'm 31 years old, and 6 months ago, I thought I had everything. A beautiful home in Austin, Texas. A successful career as a senior marketing director at a tech startup. And Daniel, my husband of 5 years, the man who'd promised me forever. We'd been trying to get pregnant for 2 years. 2 long years of disappointment, of negative pregnancy tests, of watching friends announce their pregnancies while we smiled and pretended we weren't heartbroken. We'd seen specialists, tried medications, tracked ovulation religiously. Nothing worked. And then, finally, miraculously, it happened. 2 pink lines on a pregnancy test on a Tuesday morning in January. I'd stared at it for 10 minutes, afraid to believe it was real. Daniel had been in the shower when I'd taken the test. I'd burst into the bathroom, waving the stick, tears streaming down my face. "We're pregnant," I'd sobbed. "Daniel, we're pregnant." He'd pulled me into his arms, not caring that he was dripping wet, and held me while we both cried. After 2 years of trying, of hoping, of grieving each failed attempt, we were finally going to be parents. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Sharing these stories helps more people find them. And drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from. I love hearing from you all. The pregnancy was difficult from the start. Severe morning sickness that lasted well into the 2nd trimester. Exhaustion that made even simple tasks feel impossible. But I didn't care. Every wave of nausea, every sleepless night was worth it. We were having a baby. Our miracle baby. Daniel was attentive in those early months. He'd bring me crackers in bed before I even opened my eyes. He'd hold my hair back when I was sick. He'd rub my feet at night while we watched TV and talked about baby names. We found out at the 20-week ultrasound that we were having a girl. Daniel had squeezed my hand so tight it hurt, both of us watching the screen as the technician pointed out our daughter's tiny features. 10 fingers, 10 toes, a strong heartbeat. Perfect. We named her Sophia. Sophia Grace Rodriguez. She wasn't born yet, but she was already so loved. My best friend Lauren offered to throw me a baby shower. Lauren and I had been friends since college, roommates freshman year, who'd stayed close through everything. She was a wedding planner, organized and creative, and she was thrilled to plan the perfect shower. "It's going to be beautiful," she'd said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Elegant, but not stuffy. Fun, but meaningful. Everything you deserve, Elena." The shower was scheduled for a Saturday afternoon in late June, when I'd be 32 weeks pregnant. Lauren chose a venue, a beautiful garden at a boutique hotel in downtown Austin. She ordered flowers, hired a caterer, sent invitations to 60 guests. My mom, my sisters, Daniel's mother, my colleagues, friends from college. Everyone who mattered. Daniel was excited too. He helped pick out decorations, approved the menu, even suggested games. His mother, Patricia, insisted on co-hosting with Lauren, wanting to be part of celebrating her first grandchild. Everything was perfect. We were happy, excited, building the life we'd dreamed of. And then, 3 weeks before the baby shower, everything shattered. I was home alone on a Wednesday afternoon, 6 months pregnant, and on partial bed rest because of some concerning blood pressure readings. My doctor wanted me to reduce stress, limit activity, rest as much as possible. So I was on the couch, laptop balanced on my belly, trying to work remotely while Sophia kicked and tumbled inside me. Daniel had left his iPad on the coffee table that morning. He usually took it to work, but he'd been in a hurry and forgotten it. I wouldn't have touched it. We respected each other's privacy, except it kept buzzing with notifications. Message after message, the screen lighting up over and over. After the 10th buzz, I glanced over, worried it might be something urgent from his office. What I saw made my blood run cold. The preview on the screen showed a text message from someone named A. The message said, "Missing you. Can't wait for tonight. Wear what I like." My hands were shaking as I picked up the iPad. I knew Daniel's passcode. We'd always shared passwords, never had secrets. Or so I'd thought. I opened the messages. And I found everything. Months of texts. between Daniel and someone named Amber. Intimate messages. Sexual messages. Planning meetings at hotels. Discussing when I'd be at doctor's appointments, so they'd have time alone at our house. In our bed, the messages went back 6 months, which meant Daniel had been cheating on me for the entire pregnancy. While I'd been sick, exhausted, struggling to grow our daughter, he'd been sleeping with someone named Amber. I scrolled through the texts, my heart breaking with each one. There were photos too. Amber in lingerie. Daniel shirtless. The two of them together in ways that left nothing to the imagination. One message from Amber stood out. Does she suspect anything? Daniel's response, no. She's too tired and pregnant to notice. And honestly, she's let herself go. You're so much more exciting. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. Not morning sickness.
Pure devastation.
When I could breathe again, I went back to the messages. I needed to know everything. Who this woman was. How they'd met. How long it had been going on. I found an email thread. Daniel had been forwarding messages to his personal email, probably to have a backup. The emails revealed more than the texts had. Amber was a colleague. They worked in the same building, different companies, but shared common areas. They'd met at a coffee shop in the lobby 6 months ago. Started talking. Exchanged numbers. Just friends at first, according to the early messages. But it had escalated quickly. The affair had started right around the time I'd gotten pregnant. Right when Daniel should have been the most excited, the most supportive. Instead, he'd been cheating. There were hotel receipts. Charges on our joint credit card that I'd never questioned because Daniel handled most of the finances. Dinners at expensive restaurants I'd thought were work events. Room service charges I'd assumed were for business trips. I'd been funding my husband's affair with my own money. I sat on that couch for 3 hours, Sophia kicking inside me, while I read through every message, every email, every piece of evidence of Daniel's betrayal. By the time I was done, I had a complete picture of his double life. But I didn't confront him. Not yet. Because I'd had an idea. A terrible, perfect idea. The baby shower was in 3 weeks.
60 guests.
Everyone we knew. Everyone who loved us and believed in our marriage. Everyone who was excited to celebrate Sophia's arrival. What if I used that moment? What if I exposed Daniel's affair in front of all of them? Made him answer for what he'd done in front of his mother, my mother, our friends? It would be devastating.
Public.
Humiliating for both of us. But maybe that's what he deserved. Maybe that's what I needed. Not a private confrontation that he could minimize or explain away, but a public reckoning that he couldn't escape. I spent the rest of that day planning. Not baby shower games or decorations, but revenge. First, I documented everything. I took photos of every message, every email, every receipt. I uploaded them to a secure cloud storage that only I could access. I made sure I had copies of copies, evidence that couldn't be deleted or destroyed. Then I started researching Amber. Her full name was in some of the emails, Amber Chin, marketing coordinator at a financial services company on the 3rd floor of Daniel's building. I found her LinkedIn, her Instagram, her Facebook. She was 26, 5 years younger than me. No wedding ring. No mention of Daniel in any of her posts, of course. Just photos of her perfect life, her perfect body, her perfect smile. She had no idea I existed. Or maybe she did, and just didn't care. I also looked into Texas divorce laws. Community property state, which meant everything acquired during the marriage was split 50-50. But adultery could affect things, spousal support, custody arrangements, if there were disputes. I took notes. I'd need a lawyer soon, but not yet. First, the baby shower. When Daniel came home that evening, I was calm. I'd rehearsed my performance. Loving wife, excited mother-to-be, oblivious to her husband's betrayal. How was your day? He asked, kissing my forehead. Good. Boring. Just resting like the doctor said. I smiled. How was yours? Busy. Long meetings.
I'm exhausted. Lies.
I'd seen the messages. He'd had lunch with Amber at a Thai restaurant downtown. They talked about meeting up again on Friday when I had my prenatal appointment. Lauren called about the baby shower. I said casually. Everything's coming together beautifully. Your mom is so excited to co-host. That's great, Daniel said, settling onto the couch beside me. He put his hand on my belly, feeling Sophia kick. Our daughter's going to have the best baby shower. I wanted to push his hand away. Wanted to scream at him. Wanted to demand answers. But I didn't. I just smiled and said, "She is. It's going to be perfect." Perfect. Because I was going to make sure of it. Over the next 3 weeks, I played the perfect wife. I let Daniel think everything was fine. I thanked him for being so supportive during the pregnancy. I talked about our future, about Sophia, about the life we'd build together. I let him believe I was clueless. Meanwhile, I was preparing. I met with a divorce lawyer named Rebecca Martinez. She was in her 50s, sharp-eyed, with a reputation for not taking any shit. I showed her all the evidence. The texts. The emails.
The receipts.
"This is substantial," she said, reviewing everything. "Your husband has been systematically lying to you and funding his affair with marital assets. In Texas, this matters. What do I need to do?" I asked. "Ideally, we'd file for divorce before you confront him. But if you're planning this public reveal, I understand the reasoning. Just know that once you expose him, he'll likely get his own lawyer immediately. Things could get ugly fast."
"They're already ugly," I said.
"He just doesn't know I know yet." Rebecca nodded. "Okay. I'll have divorce papers drawn up and ready to file the day after the baby shower. That way, he'll get served while he's still reeling from the public exposure." Perfect. I also talked to my doctor about the stress of what I was planning. She was concerned. Stress wasn't good for the pregnancy, especially with my blood pressure issues. But I explained that living with this secret, pretending everything was fine, was also stressful. Maybe more stressful than confronting it. "Just promise me you'll be careful," she said. "Your blood pressure, your health, Sophia's health, these have to be priorities." "I promise," I said. "After the baby shower, I'll focus completely on staying healthy until delivery." Lauren noticed something was off. She knew me too well to be fooled completely. "Are you okay?" she asked one day when we were reviewing final shower details. "You seem different."
"Ai fine ilid."
"Just pregnancy hormones." "And nervous about being the center of attention." "You're going to be beautiful," Lauren said, squeezing my hand. "This shower is going to be everything you deserve." She had no idea how right she was. The Friday before the shower, I did something I'd been dreading. I called Amber. I'd found her work number on the company website. I called from a burner phone I'd bought specifically for this purpose. She answered on the third ring. "This is Amber."
"Iambe."
"My name is Elena Rodriguez. I'm Daniel's wife." Silence. Long, heavy silence. I don't know what you're talking about," she finally stammered. "Yes, you do. You've been sleeping with my husband for 6 months. Don't bother denying it. I have all the texts, all the emails, all the evidence." "I didn't know he was married," she said quickly. Too quickly. It was clearly a lie. "There are texts where you specifically mention me, where you ask if I suspect anything. So don't lie." More silence. "What do you want?" she finally asked. Her voice was small, scared. "I want you to come to my baby shower tomorrow. 2 p.m. at the Garden Terrace at the Magnolia Hotel downtown. It's a celebration for the baby my husband and I are having together. The baby he's been growing with me while he's been fucking you." "I'm not going to." "You'll come," I interrupted. "Or I'll send all the evidence I have to your employer."
"To your family."
"To everyone on your social media. I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person you are." "You can't do that," she protested. "Try me." "You have 2 choices, Amber. Show up tomorrow, or I ruin your life the way you helped ruin mine. Your decision." I hung up before she could respond. I didn't know if she'd actually show up. Part of me hoped she would. Part of me hoped she wouldn't. Either way, the baby shower was going to be memorable. The night before the shower, Daniel was in a good mood. We had dinner together. He'd made my favorite pasta dish. We watched a movie. He rubbed my swollen feet and talked about how excited he was to meet Sophia in a few weeks. "I can't wait to be a dad," he said. "I'm going to be the best father. I promise." "I know you will," I said, lying, because I knew the truth. He was a cheater, a liar, and soon everyone else would know it too. That night, lying in bed beside him, feeling Sophia move inside me, I thought about what tomorrow would bring. The destruction, the pain, the humiliation. Not just for Daniel, but for me too. Everyone would know I'd been betrayed. Everyone would see my marriage fall apart in real time. But maybe that was okay. Maybe public pain was better than private suffering. Maybe the embarrassment was worth the truth. I barely slept that night. By the time morning came, I was exhausted but determined. Today was the baby shower. Today, everyone would learn the truth. The venue was beautiful. Lauren and Patricia had outdone themselves. The garden terrace was decorated with white and pale pink flowers. There were elegant table settings, a beautiful cake shaped like a baby bassinet, a gift table already overflowing with wrapped boxes. 60 chairs were arranged in a semicircle around a love seat that had been designated for Daniel and me to open gifts together. Because of course he'd be there for that part. The devoted husband, the excited father-to-be. I arrived at 1:30, 90 minutes early. Lauren was there, making final preparations.
Elena.
You look beautiful. She hugged me carefully, mindful of my belly. I was wearing a flowing white dress that made me look ethereal, glowing. The perfect mother-to-be. Thank you for doing all this, I said. Of course. I'm so happy for you. She paused. Are you sure you're feeling okay? You seem tense. Just nervous, I said. You know me. I don't love being the center of attention. She laughed. Well, get ready, because you're about to be very central. You have no idea, I thought. Patricia arrived at 1:45. Daniel's mother was an elegant woman in her 60s, always perfectly put together, always proper. She loved me like a daughter, or at least she had. I didn't know how she'd feel about me after today. Elena, darling, you're radiant, she said, kissing my cheek. I'm so excited to celebrate our Sophia. Our Sophia. She already thought of my daughter as part of her family. That was about to get complicated. Guests started arriving at 2. My mom and sisters. Daniel's colleagues. My friends from work. College friends. Neighbors. 60 people, all dressed nicely, all carrying gifts, all excited to celebrate. And then, at 2:15, Amber walked in. She'd come. I saw her before anyone else did. She was standing at the entrance to the garden, looking terrified and defiant in equal measure. She was wearing a simple blue dress, her dark hair pulled back. She looked young, scared, and very much like someone who didn't belong at this shower. Lauren noticed her. I don't think she's on the guest list, she whispered to me. Should I ask her to leave? No, I said. Let her stay. Lauren looked confused, but didn't argue. Amber found a seat in the back, trying to be invisible, but I saw her. And more importantly, I wanted Daniel to see her when he arrived. Daniel showed up at 2:20, running late from a work call. He was wearing khakis and a button-down shirt, looking handsome and charming as always. He kissed me, squeezed my hand, and started making the rounds, greeting my mom, his mom, friends, colleagues. He didn't notice Amber at first. She was in the back, partially hidden behind some tall floral arrangements. But she noticed him. I watched her face as she saw Daniel working the room, playing the devoted husband. She looked sick.
Good.
At 2:30, Lauren called everyone to attention. It was time to start the official shower program. Games first, then gifts, then cake. Thank you all so much for coming, Lauren said, standing at the front of the garden. We're here to celebrate Elena and Daniel, and most importantly, to celebrate baby Sophia, who'll be here in just a few short weeks. Everyone applauded. Daniel put his arm around me, smiling that perfect smile. We have some fun games planned, Lauren continued. But first, I believe Elena wanted to say a few words. This wasn't planned. Lauren looked surprised when I stood up and took the microphone from her. Thank you all for coming, I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. Daniel and I are so grateful to be surrounded by so much love today. This baby, our daughter, she's a miracle. We tried for so long to get pregnant, and when it finally happened, we thought all our dreams were coming true. I paused, looking around at the faces. My mom, beaming with pride. Patricia, dabbing at her eyes. Friends smiling. Daniel looking slightly confused, but still smiling beside me. But I learned something recently. I continued. I learned that sometimes, when you think everything is perfect, you're actually living in a lie. The atmosphere shifted. People were confused, not sure where I was going with this. 3 weeks ago, I discovered that Daniel has been having an affair for the entire pregnancy. 6 months. While I've been sick, exhausted, growing our daughter, he's been sleeping with someone else.
Gasps.
Audible gasps from multiple people. Patricia's hand flew to her mouth. My mother stood up, her face shocked. Lauren looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Daniel went pale. Elena, what are you? And his mistress is here today, I said, my voice gaining strength. Amber? Can you stand up, please? Every head in the garden turned toward the back, where Amber sat, frozen. Stand up, Amber, I repeated. Everyone should see the woman who's been fucking my husband while I carry his child. Amber stood slowly, tears streaming down her face. The room erupted in whispers, shocked murmurs. Daniel grabbed my arm. Elena, stop this. You're making a scene. I'm making a scene? I laughed, pulling away from him. You've been making a fool of me for 6 months. You've been spending our money on hotel rooms and dinners with her. You've been lying to me every single day while I grew our daughter in my body. And I'm making a scene? I turned back to the guests, all of whom were staring in horror. I want you all to know the truth, I said. I want you to see who Daniel really is. Not the devoted husband he pretends to be. Not the excited father to be. But a liar. A cheater. A man who couldn't even be faithful during his wife's difficult pregnancy. Patricia was crying now. My mom looked murderous, staring at Daniel with pure rage. Elena, please, Daniel said, his voice desperate. We can talk about this privately.
No, interrupta.
You lost the right to privacy when you betrayed me. Now everyone knows. Your mother knows. My mother knows. Your colleagues know. Our friends know. Everyone knows what you did. I looked directly at Amber. And you knew he was married. You knew I was pregnant. You helped him do this. You're just as guilty. Amber was sobbing openly now, people around her moving away, like she was contagious. I handed the microphone back to Lauren, who looked completely shell-shocked, and turned to leave the garden. Elena, wait. Daniel called after me. I didn't wait. I walked out of that baby shower. Out of that beautiful garden full of shocked guests and unwrapped gifts and a cake that would never be eaten, and I didn't look back. Behind me, I could hear chaos. Raised voices.
Crying.
The sound of my entire life imploding. But I'd done it. I'd exposed him. I'd told the truth. And now, everyone would have to deal with the consequences. I drove straight to my mom's house. It was only 3 miles from the venue, but it felt like the longest drive of my life. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. Sophia was kicking frantically inside me, probably sensing my stress through whatever mysterious connection exists between mother and child. Mom's car pulled into the driveway 30 seconds after mine. She'd left the baby shower immediately, abandoning the chaos to come after me. She got out of her car and practically ran to where I was sitting in mine, still gripping the steering wheel. Elena, she said, opening my door. Baby, come inside. I let her guide me into the house, into the living room where I'd spent so much of my childhood. She sat me down on the couch and brought me water, even though I hadn't asked for it. Tell me everything, she said.
So I did.
I told her about finding the messages on Daniel's iPad 3 weeks ago, about the months of affair, about Amber, about the hotel receipts and the lies and the way Daniel had said I'd let myself go while I was pregnant with his child. My mother's face went through a dozen emotions, shock, rage, grief, more rage. That bastard, she finally said. Her voice was cold. I'd rarely heard my mother curse. That absolute bastard. While you were carrying his baby.
While you were sick and on bed rest.
He was. She couldn't finish the sentence. I know, I said quietly. Why didn't you tell me? Why did you plan that whole scene at the shower instead of just leaving him quietly? Because I needed him to feel what I felt, I said. I needed him to experience public humiliation. To have everyone he cares about know what he did. A private divorce would have been too easy for him. He could have controlled the narrative, made excuses, blamed me somehow. This way, everyone knows the truth. Mom was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I understand. But Elena, your blood pressure, the stress. Dr. Walsh said you need to stay calm. I know. I will. Now that it's done, now that everyone knows, I can focus on staying healthy until Sophia comes. You're staying here, Mom said firmly. Tonight, tomorrow night, as long as you need. I'm not letting you go back to that house with him. My phone had been buzzing nonstop since I left the venue. Daniel calling over and over. Text messages flooding in. I finally looked at them. Daniel, Elena, please come back, we need to talk. Daniel, you're overreacting. Let me explain. Daniel, this is embarrassing for both of us. Daniel, you can't just leave like this. That last one made me laugh bitterly. I couldn't just leave. He'd been leaving our marriage for 6 months. There were texts from Lauren too. Oh my God, Elena, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. Call me when you're ready. From my sister Maria, where are you? Mom said you're at her house. I'm coming over. From Patricia, Daniel's mother. Elena, I am so sorry.
I don't know what to say.
That is not the man I raised. Please take care of yourself and Sophia. That one surprised me. I'd expected Patricia to defend her son, to make excuses. But she was appalled. Good. There were even texts from guests I barely knew, expressing shock and support. The story of what had happened was spreading fast. And there was one text from Amber. I'm sorry. You didn't deserve this. I deleted it without responding. Her apology meant nothing. Maria arrived 20 minutes later, bursting through the door with fury in her eyes. Where is he? Where's that piece of shit? I will kill him. I will actually murder him. You're not murdering anyone, Mom said calmly. But the sentiment is appreciated. My younger sister sat beside me on the couch, taking my hand.
How are you?
How's Sophia? We're okay, I said. Shaken, but okay. What happens now? Maria asked.
Divorce.
I have a lawyer, Rebecca Martinez. She's filing papers on Monday. Good. Take him for everything.
My phone rang.
Daniel again. I declined the call. It rang again immediately. I turned it off. He's going to come here, I said to Mom. You know he will. He's going to show up and demand to talk to me. Let him try, Mom said grimly. I have words for that man. Sure enough, 45 minutes later, there was pounding on the front door. Daniel.
Elena.
Elena, I know you're in there. We need to talk. Mom went to the door, but didn't open it. She doesn't want to talk to you, Daniel. Go home. This is between me and my wife. You should have thought about that before you cheated on her for 6 months. Now leave, or I'm calling the police. I'm not leaving until Elena talks to me. I heard Mom pick up her phone and dial. Yes, I need to report someone harassing my daughter and refusing to leave my property. That did it. I heard Daniel swear, then footsteps retreating. A car door slamming. The sound of him driving away. Mom came back into the living room.
He's gone.
For now. I stayed at Mom's house that night. Maria stayed too, sleeping in her old bedroom while I took the guest room. I barely slept. Sophia's movements, keeping me awake, my mind replaying the baby shower scene over and over. Had I done the right thing? Or had I just made everything worse? The next morning, Sunday, my phone was still off. But Maria checked hers and reported that the baby shower incident had gone viral locally. Someone had recorded at least part of my speech and posted it to social media. By morning, it had thousands of views. You're trending on Austin Twitter, Maria said, showing me her phone. The comments were mixed. Some people supported me. Good for her for exposing him publicly. Others thought I was dramatic. She ruined everyone's day for attention. Some blamed me. Maybe if she'd kept her husband satisfied. I stopped reading. I didn't care what strangers on the internet thought. What I cared about was Sophia. At my regular Sunday check-in with my blood pressure monitor, the reading was high. Dangerously high. 156/98. We need to go to the hospital, Mom said immediately. The ER doctor on call was concerned. He admitted me for observation, hooking me up to monitors to track both my blood pressure and Sophia's heart rate. Stress is the likely culprit, he said. You're 32 weeks pregnant. We need to get this under control, or we might have to consider early delivery. I'm trying to stay calm, I said. I know. But given what I understand happened yesterday, he'd clearly heard about the baby shower. Everyone in Austin had probably heard about it by now. Your body is responding to significant emotional trauma. We'll keep you here for 24 hours, monitor you closely, and hopefully get things stabilized. Daniel showed up at the hospital 3 hours later. I was in a private room, Mom sitting beside my bed, when he walked in. "You need to leave," Mom said immediately, standing up. "I need to see my wife," Daniel said. He looked terrible, unshaven, clothes wrinkled, eyes red.
Good.
"Elena, please. We need to talk." "There's nothing to talk about," I said. My voice was flat, emotionless. "Yes, there is. You humiliated me yesterday. In front of everyone. I humiliated you?" I sat up, ignoring the blood pressure monitor beeping a warning. "You cheated on me for 6 months. You spent our money on your mistress. You said I'd let myself go while I was pregnant with your child. And I humiliated you." "It was a mistake," Daniel said desperately. "The affair, it didn't mean anything. It was just I was weak and she was there and you made a choice," I interrupted. "Every day for 6 months, you made a choice to betray me." "Don't call it a mistake. Mistakes are accidents. This was deliberate." "I love you," he said. "I love you and Sophia. I want to fix this. Please, just give me a chance." "Get out," I said.
Elena.
"Get out of this room, or I'm calling security." Daniel looked at Mom, as if she might help him. She crossed her arms. "You heard her."
Leave. He left.
But not before saying, "We're still married, Elena. You can't just cut me out of Sophia's life. She's my daughter too." After he was gone, I started crying. Not because I missed him or wanted him back, but because he was right. Sophia was his daughter. Even after everything he'd done, he had rights. I couldn't just erase him. The nurse came in, saw my elevated blood pressure reading, and gave me medication to help calm me down. "No more stressful visitors," she said firmly. I stayed in the hospital for 36 hours total. By Monday afternoon, my blood pressure had stabilized enough for discharge, with strict orders to rest, avoid stress, and come back immediately if I felt any concerning symptoms. Rebecca, my lawyer, met me at Mom's house that evening. She had the divorce papers ready. "I've filed for divorce on the grounds of adultery," she said, walking me through the documents. "In Texas, this matters. It can affect property division. It can affect spousal support. Given that Daniel used marital funds for his affair, I'm confident we can make a strong case." "What about Sophia?" I asked. "Custody. You'll have primary custody. Daniel will have visitation rights. Texas courts favor both parents being involved. But given the circumstances and given your pregnancy complications, we can argue for supervised visitation initially." "I don't want him around her unsupervised," I said. "Ever. If he can betray me this completely, how do I know he won't be a bad influence on our daughter?" "We'll do everything we can," Rebecca promised. "But Elena, you need to prepare yourself. Unless Daniel does something that makes him unfit, abuse, neglect, criminal activity, the courts will give him some access to Sophia. Texas law presumes that both parents should be in a child's life." It wasn't what I wanted to hear, but it was reality. Daniel was served with divorce papers on Tuesday morning at his office. I know because he called me immediately, breaking the restraining order Rebecca had filed that prohibited contact. "You're really doing this?" he said. His voice was a mix of disbelief and anger. "You're really ending our marriage over one mistake?" "One mistake that lasted 6 months," I said. "Yes, I'm really doing this." "What about Sophia? What about our daughter?" "Sophia will have a mother who values honesty and respect, and a father who will hopefully learn from his mistakes and be better for her than he was for me." "Elena, please. Can we meet? Can we try counseling?"
No.
"The only contact we have from now on goes through our lawyers." I hung up. Over the next week, more details emerged. Because once I'd made everything public, people started talking. People started telling me things they'd noticed, but hadn't said. My colleague Sarah told me she'd seen Daniel having lunch with Amber twice, but assumed it was a work thing. My neighbor mentioned seeing a young woman leaving our house one afternoon when I was at a doctor's appointment. Patricia admitted that Daniel had seemed distant lately, but she'd chalked it up to stress about becoming a father. Everyone had seen something. No one had said anything. They'd all given him the benefit of the doubt. Lauren came to visit me at Mom's house, bringing flowers and apologies. "I feel terrible," she said. "I was planning this beautiful shower, and I had no idea what you were going through." "If I'd known." "You couldn't have known," I said. "I didn't tell anyone." I wanted to control how the truth came out. It was brave, Lauren said. What you did. Scary and brutal, but brave. Or stupid, I said. My blood pressure is still elevated.
Dr.
Walsh is worried I might have to deliver early if it doesn't stabilize. How early? She wants me to make it to at least 36 weeks. That's 4 more weeks. But if things get worse, she might induce as early as 34 weeks. Is Sophia okay?
She's fine.
Strong heartbeat, good movement. It's my body that's struggling. Lauren squeezed my hand. You're going to get through this. You and Sophia both. I wanted to believe her. The following week, I had to go back to our house, Daniel's and my house, to get more of my things. Rebecca advised me to have someone with me, so Maria came along. Walking into that house felt surreal. Everything looked the same. The furniture we'd picked out together, the photos on the walls, the nursery we'd spent weeks preparing for Sophia.
But it all felt tainted now.
Infected by Daniel's lies. I packed clothes, toiletries, important documents. I took the baby items I'd need, clothes Sophia would wear home from the hospital, blankets, the car seat. Daniel wasn't there. Rebecca had arranged for him to be out of the house during my visit, but his presence was everywhere. His coffee mug in the sink, his jacket on the chair. The life we'd built together, now broken. In the nursery, I stood looking at the crib we'd assembled together, at the mobile hanging above it, at the changing table stocked with diapers and wipes. This should have been joyful, preparing to bring our daughter home. Instead, it was heartbreaking. You okay? Maria asked, standing in the doorway. No, I said honestly. But I will be. As we were loading boxes into Maria's car, a car pulled into the driveway. Not Daniel's car. A small Honda sedan. Amber got out. You've got to be kidding me, Maria said. The audacity. I've got this, I said, walking toward her. Amber looked nervous, her hands twisting together.
Elena.
I know I'm the last person you want to see, but I needed to talk to you. You have 30 seconds, I said.
I'm sorry.
I know that doesn't mean anything, but I am. I didn't set out to hurt you. I didn't set out to have an affair with a married man. It just happened. Nothing just happens, I said coldly. You made choices. Every time you texted him, every time you met him at a hotel, every time you slept with him, those were choices. I know. You're right. Amber's eyes filled with tears. I've lost my job. They found out about the affair. Someone from the baby shower must have told them. They fired me for conduct unbecoming, or whatever. And my family, my parents won't talk to me. Everyone knows what I did. Good, I said. You should face consequences. I just wanted you to know I ended it. After the baby shower, I told Daniel it was over. I can't be part of this anymore. Congratulations on finding your conscience, 6 months too late. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But I wanted to say I'm sorry. To you and to Sophia. She didn't ask to be part of this mess. No, she didn't, I agreed. But she will be. She'll grow up with divorced parents because of what you and Daniel did. She'll have to navigate split holidays and 2 homes and all the complications that come with broken families.
So thank you for that.
Thank you for helping destroy my daughter's chance at a stable, intact family before she's even born. Amber was crying openly now. I'm sorry. Leave, I said. And don't contact me or Daniel again. Move on with your life somewhere far from mine. She got back in her car and left. I stood there shaking, Maria's arm around my shoulders. That took guts, Maria said. Showing up here. That took audacity, I corrected. She doesn't get to apologize and feel better. She doesn't get absolution from me. That night, back at Mom's house, I had a breakdown. Not the angry, powerful breakdown from the baby shower. A quiet, devastating one. I lay in the guest bed, crying into my pillow, feeling Sophia move inside me and wondering how I was going to do this alone. I'd wanted this baby for so long, dreamed of having a family. And now I was going to be a single mother, raising my daughter without her father in the home, dealing with custody arrangements and co-parenting with a man who'd betrayed me. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. Mom found me crying and sat on the edge of the bed, rubbing my back like she'd done when I was a child. It's going to be okay, she said softly.
How? I asked.
How is any of this going to be okay? Because you're strong. Because Sophia is going to have a mother who fought for her dignity, who refused to accept betrayal, who taught her that self-respect matters more than keeping up appearances. You're going to raise an amazing daughter, Elena. With or without Daniel. I don't want to do it without him, I admitted. I wanted our family to be whole. I wanted Sophia to have both parents who loved each other. I know. But that's not what you have. What you have is a choice. Raise her in a broken home filled with lies, or raise her in an honest home with one parent who loves her fiercely. You're choosing the second option. That's the right choice. I wanted to believe her. 2 days later, Daniel requested a meeting through his lawyer. He wanted to discuss custody arrangements and financial matters. Rebecca advised that we should meet. Better to work things out now than fight in court later. We met at Rebecca's office. Neutral territory. Daniel looked better than he had at the hospital. Showered, shaved, wearing a suit. His lawyer, a man named Tom Patterson, sat beside him. Thank you for agreeing to meet, Tom said. We're hoping we can reach some agreements without protracted litigation. My client is open to reasonable arrangements, Rebecca said, provided they protect Elena and Sophia's interests. Daniel wants to be involved in Sophia's life, Tom said. He's requesting 50-50 custody. I laughed. Actually laughed.
No.
Absolutely not. Elena, she's my daughter, Daniel started. And you betrayed her mother for 6 months. I interrupted. You don't get 50-50 custody. You don't get to play happy family on alternating weeks after what you did. Texas courts favor joint custody. I don't care what courts favor, I said. I'm not negotiating on this. Primary custody with me. Daniel gets supervised visitation until Sophia is old enough to decide for herself if she wants more time with him. That's unreasonable, Tom said. What's unreasonable is expecting me to hand my newborn daughter over to a man who can't be trusted, I shot back. The meeting devolved from there. We couldn't agree on custody. We couldn't agree on property division. Daniel wanted to keep the house, I wanted it sold. We couldn't agree on anything. Rebecca called a break. This is going to court, she told me privately. Neither side is willing to compromise enough.
Fine, I said.
Let a judge decide. But court would take time. Months. Meanwhile, Sophia was coming. Ready or not, in just a few weeks, I'd be a mother. And I'd be navigating all of this divorce, custody battles, single parenthood, while trying to heal from the deepest betrayal of my life. That evening, alone in Mom's guest room, I put my hands on my belly and felt Sophia moving. I don't know how to do this, I whispered to her. I don't know how to be strong enough for both of us. But she just kept moving, kept growing, kept preparing to enter a world that was far more complicated than I'd ever wanted it to be. And I realized I didn't have a choice. I had to figure it out. I had to be strong enough, because in a few weeks, I wouldn't just be Elena Rodriguez, betrayed wife seeking revenge. I'd be Sophia's mother. And that role would require more strength than any public exposure ever could. Sophia arrived 3 weeks early, at 37 weeks, on a Tuesday morning in July. I'd been having contractions since midnight, but I dismissed them as Braxton Hicks, false labor. I'd been having those for weeks. But by 6 a.m., they were coming every 5 minutes, strong enough to make me pause and breathe through them. Mom took one look at me and said, "We're going to the hospital." "It's too early," I protested. "I'm not due for 3 more weeks. 37 weeks is full term," she said firmly. "And those are real contractions."
Get your bag.
"We're going." I'd packed a hospital bag weeks ago, when I was still living in the house with Daniel, when I still thought he'd be my birth partner. That bag had a change of clothes for Daniel, snacks he liked, a list of songs he'd wanted to play during labor. I'd repacked it last week at Mom's house. Now it had clothes for me, snacks I liked, and a playlist I'd made myself. Daniel wasn't invited to this birth. He'd lost that privilege when he chose Amber over our family. The drive to the hospital was surreal. Mom drove while I timed contractions and tried to stay calm. Sophia was coming. Ready or not, my daughter was about to be born into this complicated, broken situation. At the hospital, they confirmed I was in active labor. 4 centimeters dilated, contractions regular and strong. Dr. Walsh, my OB, examined me and said, Looks like Sophia decided not to wait. Let's have a baby today. They admitted me to a labor and delivery room. Mom stayed with me, holding my hand through contractions, helping me breathe. Maria arrived an hour later, having rushed over from work. And then inevitably, Daniel showed up. I was 7 centimeters dilated, deep in the intensity of transition labor, when he walked into my room. "What are you doing here?" Maria demanded, stepping between him and my bed. "My daughter is being born," Daniel said. "I have a right to be here." "You have no rights," I managed to say between contractions. "Get out. Elena, please. Let me be here for this. Let me see Sophia being born."
No.
The word came out as a growl. "You betrayed us. You don't get to be here for this moment. I'm her father." "Then you should have thought about that before you fucked your mistress for 6 months. I screamed it. I didn't care who heard. "Get out. Get out of my room." A nurse came in, saw the situation, and firmly escorted Daniel out. "Sir, the mother has the right to decide who's in the delivery room. You need to leave. This is discrimination. This is a medical facility, and we prioritize the birthing mother's needs and stress levels. Leave now, or security will escort you out." Daniel left, but not before shooting me a look of such hurt and anger that it almost made me feel guilty. Almost. Labor progressed quickly after that. Maybe because I was so angry. Maybe because Sophia was just ready. By noon, I was fully dilated and ready to push. Dr. Walsh coached me through it. Mom held one leg, Maria held the other. And 45 minutes later, at 12:47 p.m., Sophia Grace Rodriguez entered the world.
She was perfect.
Absolutely perfect. 7 pounds, 2 ounces. 19 inches long. A head full of dark hair and lungs that worked perfectly, announcing her arrival with strong, healthy cries. They placed her on my chest, skin to skin, and I looked down at her tiny, furious face and fell completely, irreversibly in love.
Hey, Sophia, iwispat.
"I'm your mama. I've been waiting so long to meet you." She stopped crying, seeming to recognize my voice. Her dark eyes tried to focus on my face. Her tiny fist wrapped around my finger with surprising strength. "She's beautiful," Mom said, crying. "Oh, Elena, she's so beautiful." She was. She was everything I dreamed of and more. Despite everything that had happened, despite the pain and betrayal and complications, Sophia was here. Healthy. Real.
Mine.
They let me hold her for almost an hour before taking her for her newborn checks. Weight, length, APGAR scores. Everything came back perfect. Sophia was healthy and strong. When they brought her back, cleaned and swaddled, wearing the tiny pink hat the hospital provided, a nurse said, "The father is in the waiting room. He's requesting to see the baby." My first instinct was to say no, to deny him this moment the way he denied me a faithful husband and an intact family. But Sophia was his daughter too. Like it or not, he had rights. 5 minutes, I said. "He can come in for 5 minutes. But Mom and Maria stay in the room. They brought Daniel in. He looked terrible, eyes red, face pale. But when he saw Sophia, his expression transformed into something I hadn't seen in months.
Pure, genuine joy.
"Can I hold her?" he asked quietly. I didn't want to let him. Every instinct screamed to protect my daughter from this man who'd proven himself untrustworthy. But I handed her over, watching carefully as he cradled her in his arms.
Sophia, iwisparat.
His voice broke. "Hi, baby girl. I'm your daddy. I'm so sorry I wasn't there when you were born. I wanted to be. You should have thought about that before." I started, but Mom put a warning hand on my arm. "Not now. Not in this moment." Daniel held Sophia for exactly 5 minutes, tears streaming down his face the entire time. Then, without me asking, he handed her back. "She's perfect," he said. "Thank you. For her. For carrying her and bringing her into the world. Whatever happens between us, thank you for that." Then he left. I stayed in the hospital for 2 days. Standard protocol for vaginal delivery with no complications. Those 2 days were a blur of feeding attempts, diaper changes, nurses checking on us every few hours, and very little sleep. But I didn't care. Every time I looked at Sophia, at her tiny nose, her rosebud mouth, her delicate fingers, Nothing else mattered. Not the divorce. Not the custody battle. Not the betrayal. Just her. Mom stayed with me the whole time. She was a godsend, helping with everything, showing me how to swaddle properly, how to get Sophia to latch for breastfeeding, how to change a diaper on a squirming newborn. "You're a natural," she said, watching me feed Sophia on our second night in the hospital. "I'm terrified," I admitted. "What if I mess this up? What if I can't do this alone?" "You're not alone," Mom said firmly. "You have me. You have Maria. You have so many people who love you and Sophia. Yes, Daniel's not living up to his responsibilities. But you're not alone." Rebecca came to visit on discharge day, bringing paperwork I needed to sign and updates on the divorce proceedings. "Daniel's lawyer has filed a motion for emergency temporary custody," she said. "They're arguing that since Sophia is born, he should have immediate visitation rights." "How immediate?" "They want overnight visits starting at 2 weeks old." "Absolutely not," I said, holding Sophia closer. "She's barely born. She's exclusively breastfed. She can't do overnight visits." "I agree. We'll fight it." The hearing is scheduled for next week. Judge Morrison is presiding. She's fair, but she does tend to favor father involvement. Even when the father is a cheater, the affair doesn't make him an unfit parent, Rebecca said gently. "Legally. Morally, yes, he's done terrible things to you. But unless we can prove he'd be harmful to Sophia specifically, the court will grant him access." It wasn't what I wanted to hear, but it was reality. We went home to Mom's house. Not the house Daniel and I had shared. I couldn't go back there yet. Maybe never. So Sophia's first home was her grandmother's house, in a nursery Mom had hastily set up in her spare room. Those first few weeks were brutal. Sophia had her days and nights mixed up, crying for hours at a time, only sleeping in 20-minute increments. I was exhausted, emotional, and still recovering physically from delivery. And through it all, Daniel kept calling,
Kept texting.
kept requesting to see Sophia. I allowed supervised visits at Mom's house. 1 hour, 3 times a week. Daniel would come over, Mom would stay in the room, and he'd hold Sophia, talk to her, try to bond with her. It was painful to watch. Not because he was bad with her, he was surprisingly gentle and attentive, but because I could see what we could have had, what should have been. A family.
A home.
2 parents working together. Instead, we had this. Scheduled visitations. Supervised time. A broken family before Sophia was even a month old. The custody hearing was held when Sophia was 3 weeks old. I had to bring her with me to court. I was still exclusively breastfeeding, and she needed to eat every 2 hours. Judge Morrison was a woman in her late 50s with sharp eyes and no-nonsense demeanor. She reviewed all the filings, then looked at both Daniel and me. "This is about what's best for Sophia," she said. "Not about punishing either parent for mistakes made in the marriage. Do you both understand that?" We both said yes. Daniel's lawyer went first, arguing that Daniel was a fit father who deserved equal time with his daughter. He had a stable job, a home, family support. The affair was regrettable, but didn't impact his parenting ability. Rebecca countered, arguing that Sophia was 3 weeks old, exclusively breastfed, and bonded primarily with me. Overnight visits were inappropriate at this age. Daniel should have daytime visits that gradually increased as Sophia got older. Judge Morrison asked me direct questions. "Ms. Rodriguez, do you believe Daniel poses any danger to Sophia?" "No," I admitted. "I don't think he'd hurt her physically. But I don't trust him. He lied to me for 6 months. How do I know he'll tell me the truth about caring for her? How do I know he'll follow her schedule, her routines? How do I know he won't bring Amber around her? Has Mr. Rodriguez brought his girlfriend around the child?" Judge Morrison asked. "No," Daniel's lawyer said quickly. "My client ended that relationship. Amber Chen is not in the picture." "Is that true?" the judge asked Daniel directly. "Yes, Your Honor. The affair is over. It's been over since the baby shower. I haven't spoken to Amber in over a month." Judge Morrison made notes, then looked at Sophia, who was sleeping in my arms, oblivious to the legal proceedings determining her future. "Here's my ruling," the judge said. "Given Sophia's age and exclusive breastfeeding, primary physical custody goes to Ms. Rodriguez. Mr. Rodriguez will have supervised visitation 3 times per week, 2 hours per visit, until Sophia is 3 months old. At that time, we'll reconvene and discuss increasing his time, potentially including unsupervised visits. Your Honor, Daniel's lawyer started to object. I'm not finished, Judge Morrison said sharply. At 6 months, if Mr. Rodriguez has been consistent with visitation and demonstrated reliable parenting, we'll consider overnight visits. At 1 year, we'll discuss a more permanent custody arrangement. But for now, this infant needs her mother. Court adjourned. I'd won. At least for now. But it felt hollow. Because winning meant Sophia's father had limited access to her. Winning meant my daughter would grow up with divorced parents and complicated arrangements. There was no winning in this situation. Only less losing. Over the next few months, life settled into a new rhythm. Sophia grew. She started smiling at 6 weeks, laughing at 2 months, rolling over at 3 months. She was thriving despite the chaos of her birth circumstances. I returned to work at 12 weeks, my maternity leave exhausted. It was hard, impossibly hard, to leave Sophia with Mom while I went back to the office. But I needed the income. I needed the structure. I needed something that was mine beyond mother and betrayed wife. Daniel was consistent with his visits. He showed up 3 times a week, every week. He was good with Sophia, gentle, patient, attentive. He learned her schedule, her likes and dislikes, her different cries. And I hated that I couldn't hate him completely. Because he was trying. He was showing up. He was being the father Sophia needed, even if he'd failed as the husband I'd needed. At Sophia's 3-month checkup, we were back in court. Judge Morrison reviewed Daniel's visitation record, perfect attendance, and my reports on his behavior, appropriate and responsible. I'm extending Mr. Rodriguez's visits to 4 hours, 3 times per week, unsupervised, she ruled. He can take Sophia to his home. Ms. Rodriguez will pump breast milk for the visits. I wanted to object, but I couldn't. Daniel had done everything right. He'd earned this. So Sophia started visiting her father at the house that used to be ours, the house Daniel still lived in, the house I couldn't bring myself to enter. She'd spend 4 hours there, 3 times a week, while I sat at Mom's house trying not to panic about everything that could go wrong. Nothing went wrong. Daniel sent me photos of Sophia during visits, her smiling, playing, napping. He followed her schedule religiously. He texted updates without me asking. He was being the co-parent I needed him to be, even if he'd failed at being the partner I'd needed. The divorce was finalized when Sophia was 4 months old. We'd reached settlements on everything, property division, retirement accounts, the house. Daniel bought out my half of the house, refinancing in his name only. We split our savings. No alimony for either party. The judge signed the papers on a Tuesday afternoon in November. And just like that, I wasn't Elena Rodriguez married to Daniel anymore. I was just Elena Rodriguez, single mother, surviving and rebuilding. I kept Daniel's last name. Not because I wanted to, but because it was Sophia's name. I wanted us to have the same last name, to not have to explain to every teacher and doctor and stranger why my daughter's name was different from mine. So I stayed Elena Rodriguez. But I wasn't his anymore. I was my own. And Sophia's. One evening, when Sophia was 5 months old, sleeping peacefully in her crib at Mom's house, I sat on the couch scrolling through my phone and came across a photo from a year ago. It was from the baby shower. Someone had posted it months ago, when the scandal was fresh. But the algorithm had just surfaced it for me. In the photo, the garden looked beautiful. The decorations were perfect. The cake was gorgeous. And I was standing there, 6 months pregnant, wearing my white dress, holding a microphone. You couldn't see my face in the photo, but you could see the audience. 60 faces, all frozen in expressions of shock and horror. Patricia with her hand over her mouth. My mom standing up, furious. Lauren looking like she'd been struck. And in the back, blurry but visible, was Amber.
Crying.
I stared at that photo for a long time, remembering that moment. The moment I decided to blow up my life in the most public way possible. Had it been worth it? I thought about the alternative. Finding out about the affair privately. Confronting Daniel quietly. Getting divorced without the spectacle. Would that have been better? Less humiliating? Less painful? Maybe. But it also would have let Daniel control the narrative. He could have spun the story, made himself the victim, told everyone that I was unreasonable or that we'd grown apart, or any of the other euphemisms people use to hide infidelity. The public exposure had been devastating, but it had also been honest. Everyone knew the truth. There was no confusion, no he said she said. Just facts. Daniel had cheated. I'd caught him. I'd called him out. That was the story. Simple.
True.
Mine to tell. I deleted the photo. I didn't need to look at it anymore. That moment was in the past. I had to focus on the future. Sophia's future. My future. Our future as a family of two, with Daniel on the periphery, involved but not central. It wasn't the family I'd imagined, but it was the family we had. And slowly, painfully, I was learning to accept that. 6 months after Sophia's birth, we were back in court for the overnight visit discussion. Judge Morrison reviewed everything: Daniel's consistent visitation, his appropriate care of Sophia, my reports on his behavior. I'm granting Mr. Rodriguez overnight visits, she said. 1 night per week, Friday night, returning Saturday afternoon. This will continue for 3 months, at which point we'll reconvene to discuss expanding to a more traditional custody arrangement. Friday nights. Sophia would sleep at Daniel's house, in the nursery we'd prepared together. Without me, I felt like I was losing her, even though I knew that wasn't rational. She was still mine. I was still her mother. But sharing her, even with her own father, felt like grief. The first Friday overnight visit arrived too quickly. I packed Sophia's bag with everything she might need: clothes, diapers, bottles of pumped milk, her favorite blanket, her sleep sack. I wrote out her schedule in excruciating detail, even though Daniel already knew it by heart. When he came to pick her up, Sophia was 7 months old. She could sit up unassisted now, babble constantly, and had just started eating solid foods. She was becoming a person with preferences and personality. I've got her, Daniel said, seeing the anxiety on my face.
Y promise, Elena.
I'll take good care of her. I know, I said, but my hands were shaking as I handed her over. Daniel strapped Sophia into her car seat. I watched through the window as he drove away with my daughter. And then I went inside and cried. Not because I didn't trust Daniel with Sophia, but because this was my new reality. Sharing my daughter, letting her go, even for a night, building a life around custody schedules and handoffs and split time. This was the consequence of Daniel's betrayal. Not just a broken marriage, but a fractured family. Sophia would grow up knowing her parents didn't live together, didn't love each other, couldn't be in the same room without tension. That night, I lay awake in the bed at Mom's house, listening to the silence where Sophia's breathing should be. The house felt empty without her. I felt empty without her. But the next morning, when Daniel brought her back, Sophia was fine.
Happy.
She'd slept well, eaten well, played well. She reached for me with a squeal of delight, and I held her close, breathing in her baby smell. She did great, Daniel reported. No problems at all. Thank you, I managed to say. Elena, Daniel said, I know this is hard. I know I destroyed everything good between us. But I'm trying. I'm really trying to be the father Sophia deserves. I know you are, I said, and I appreciate that. For her sake. He nodded and left. And I was alone with Sophia again, our weekend stretching ahead of us. This was our life now. Shared custody, separate homes. A daughter who would navigate between 2 parents who used to love each other and now barely spoke. I looked down at Sophia, at her big dark eyes and her gummy smile, and I thought about the baby shower. About the moment I'd chosen public humiliation over private pain. I'd wanted Daniel to feel what I felt, to experience loss and embarrassment.
And he had.
The video had gone viral. Everyone in Austin knew what he'd done. His reputation was damaged, probably permanently. But had it been worth it? Had the revenge been satisfying? I honestly didn't know. Because sitting there with my 7-month-old daughter, living at my mother's house, navigating custody arrangements with a man I used to love, I didn't feel victorious. I just felt tired, but I also felt determined, because Sophia was watching. She was learning. And I wanted her to learn that betrayal doesn't have to break you, that you can survive the worst and rebuild something beautiful. She was my beautiful thing,
My rebuilt life.
my second chance at happiness. And no matter how hard this got, no matter how painful co-parenting with Daniel became, I would make sure Sophia knew she was loved.
Completely.
Unconditionally. By both parents, even if those parents could never be together. That was my promise to her.
My vow.
The thing I would build my new life around. And slowly, day by day, I was learning how to keep that promise. Time has a strange way of both healing and clarifying. What felt impossible in those early months, sharing Sophia, co-parenting with Daniel, rebuilding my life, gradually became our new normal. By the time Sophia turned 1, we'd settled into a custody rhythm that mostly worked. Daniel had her every Friday night, and every other weekend. I had her the rest of the time. We'd learned to communicate through a co-parenting app, keeping things businesslike and focused on Sophia's needs. It wasn't perfect, but it was functional. Sophia's first birthday party was the first time Daniel and I had to navigate a major milestone together. I organized the party at Mom's house, a small gathering with family and close friends. Daniel was invited, of course. Sophia deserved to have both parents at her birthday. I'd been dreading it for weeks. The awkwardness, the tension, the inevitable questions from well-meaning relatives about our relationship status. But when the day came, something unexpected happened. Daniel arrived with a beautifully wrapped present and a genuine smile. He stayed on his side of the yard while I stayed on mine. We didn't talk beyond logistics about Sophia, but we were both there, both celebrating our daughter, both putting her needs ahead of our hurt. Sophia, oblivious to the complexity, had the best day. She smashed her cake with enthusiastic abandon, opened presents with delight, and toddled between her parents, grandparents, and aunts with pure joy. Looking at photos later, you wouldn't know we were divorced. You'd just see two parents who loved their daughter. And maybe that was enough. Maybe that was all Sophia needed. When Sophia was 15 months old, I did something I'd been putting off for over a year. I went back to the house Daniel and I had shared. The house where we'd planned our future, where we'd prepared Sophia's nursery, where I discovered his betrayal on that iPad. Daniel had agreed to let me come by when he and Sophia were out, to collect the last of my things. Personal items I'd left behind in my rush to leave. Photos from before the affair. My grandmother's jewelry box.
Books.
Walking through that door felt surreal. Everything looked the same, but felt completely different. The couch where Daniel and I used to watch TV together. The kitchen where we'd cooked dinners and talked about our days. The hallway leading to what used to be our bedroom. I didn't go into the bedroom. I couldn't. But I did go into Sophia's nursery. It looked different than when I'd helped design it. Daniel had added new decorations, photos of him and Sophia, a bookshelf full of children's books, toys I'd never seen before. This was Sophia's room in her father's house. A separate space from her room at Mom's house where I still lived. My daughter had 2 homes, 2 rooms, 2 sets of everything. This was her reality. I gathered my things quickly and left. As I pulled out of the driveway, I realized I felt nothing.
No anger. No grief.
No longing for what we'd had. Just acceptance. This chapter was closed. I'd moved on. Moving on took many forms. I started therapy, real, consistent therapy with a counselor named Dr. Sarah Chen, who specialized in betrayal trauma and divorce recovery. Once a week, I sat in her office and talked about everything. The affair, the baby shower, the guilt I felt about exposing Daniel publicly, the anger I still carried, the fear that I'd never trust anyone again. Trust is something you rebuild slowly, Dr. Chen told me. Not just trust in other people, but trust in yourself. Trust in your judgment. Trust that you can survive betrayal and come out stronger. I don't feel stronger, I admitted. I feel exhausted. Exhaustion is part of healing, she said. You're rebuilding your entire life while raising a toddler and navigating co-parenting with your ex-husband. Of course you're exhausted, but you're doing it. That's strength. I also started saying yes to things I'd avoided for the past year. Coffee with friends. Work happy hours. A book club Maria invited me to. Slowly, I rebuilt a social life that wasn't centered entirely around Sophia and survival. And then, when Sophia was 18 months old, I went on my first date since the divorce. His name was Marcus Webb. He was a project manager at a construction company, 34, divorced with no kids. We'd met at the book club. His sister was a member and had dragged him along one night as moral support. We'd started talking during the break, discovered we had similar taste in books and movies, exchanged numbers. He'd texted me a few days later asking if I wanted to get coffee. I'd stared at that text for 20 minutes before responding. Did I want a date? Was I ready? Could I trust someone new? Finally, I texted back. Coffee sounds nice. Our first date was awkward. I was rusty at conversation that wasn't about Sophia or work. Marcus was recently divorced too. His ex-wife had left him for her personal trainer, so we bonded over shared betrayal trauma. Do you think you'll ever trust someone completely again? He asked over our second cup of coffee. I don't know, I said honestly. Part of me thinks no. Part of me hopes yes. Part of me wonders if complete trust is even possible, or if we're all just trusting as much as we can until something proves us wrong. That's dark, Marcus said. But he smiled. Also probably true. We went on a second date, then a third. By the fourth date, I told him about Daniel, about Amber, about the baby shower. Everything. I expected him to run. Who wants to date someone with that much baggage? But Marcus just listened, nodded, and said, that took courage. What you did at the baby shower. Terrifying courage. Or stupidity, I said. Maybe both. But you stood up for yourself. You refused to be lied to quietly. That matters. Marcus didn't meet Sophia for months.
I was careful about that.
I didn't want to introduce men into her life unless I was sure they'd stick around. But eventually, after 6 months of dating, I decided he'd earned it. The introduction was casual. A trip to the zoo, Sophia in her stroller, Marcus walking beside us, making silly faces at her until she giggled. He didn't try to parent her or insert himself into our dynamic. He just existed alongside us. Comfortable.
Easy.
Sophia liked him. She'd smile when he showed up, eventually letting him push her on the swings at the park. Nothing forced. Just natural. Daniel, predictably, was not thrilled when I told him I was dating someone. Already, he'd said, his voice tight. Sophia's not even 2 yet, and you're bringing men around her? I've been dating Marcus for 6 months, I said calmly. And I waited to introduce them until I was sure it was serious. I'm not bringing men around her. I'm introducing her to someone important in my life. There's a difference. I don't want strange men around my daughter. Marcus isn't strange. He's kind, stable, and respectful. Sophia likes him. And frankly, Daniel, you don't get to have opinions about my dating life. You lost that right when you cheated on me with Amber. Silence. Then, that's not fair. None of this is fair, I said. But it's our reality. You'll meet Marcus at pickup this week. Be civil. The meeting was tense but brief. Daniel and Marcus shook hands, exchanged stiff pleasantries, and then Daniel left with Sophia for his weekend. Marcus turned to me and said, that was fun. I laughed despite myself. Welcome to my life. I'm here for it, he said, and meant it. When Sophia turned 2, I moved out of Mom's house. It was time. I'd been there for over a year, relying on Mom's support and help. But I needed my own space. My own home. A place that was mine and Sophia's. I bought a small house in South Austin. Nothing fancy. A 2-bedroom bungalow with a fenced backyard and a garage. But it was ours. I decorated Sophia's room in soft yellows and greens. I set up my own bedroom with furniture that Daniel had never touched, in a style that was entirely my taste. The first night in our new house, I put Sophia to bed in her new room, then sat on my new couch in my new living room and cried. Happy tears. Relieved tears. These are ours tears.
Ide Rabuil.
After the betrayal, after the public humiliation, after the divorce and custody battles and exhaustion, I'd rebuilt. Not the life I'd planned, but a life I could be proud of. Marcus helped me settle in. He painted the kitchen with me. He assembled Sophia's toddler bed. He hung curtains and moved boxes, and never once complained about the chaos. You're good at this, I told him one evening after Sophia was asleep, and we were sitting on the back porch drinking wine. At what? Being here. Being steady. Not running when things get complicated. Your life isn't that complicated, he said. You're a single mom with an ex-husband and a toddler. Lots of people navigate that. But my ex-husband cheated on me while I was pregnant, and I exposed him at a baby shower that went viral, and you survived it, Marcus interrupted gently. That's what I see when I look at you, Elena. Not the drama or the betrayal. Just someone who survived something terrible and built something beautiful anyway. I leaned my head on his shoulder. Thank you. For what? For seeing me. The real me. Not just the scandal or the viral video or the dramatic baby shower moment. Me. That's easy, he said. You're worth seeing. 6 months later, Marcus and I moved in together. Not rushing, Sophia was 2.5 by then, and we'd been dating for over a year. We combined households carefully, making sure Sophia felt secure and included. The custody arrangement stayed the same. Daniel still had Sophia every Friday and every other weekend. But now she split time between Daniel's house and the house Marcus and I shared.
It was complicated.
3 homes, 3 sets of rules, 3 different dynamics. But Sophia adapted. Kids are resilient in ways adults forget. She loved her room at Daniel's. She loved her room at her house. She loved time with Grandma. She navigated it all with remarkable ease. Daniel, to his credit, had done his own work. He'd gone to therapy too, processed his guilt over the affair, taken accountability for his actions. When we had to communicate about Sophia, he was respectful and cooperative. We'd never be friends. Too much had happened, but we were effective co-parents.
And that was enough.
One evening, when Sophia was 3 years old, she said something that broke my heart and healed it simultaneously. We were reading bedtime stories, cuddled in her bed at our house. Marcus was traveling for work, so it was just Sophia and me. Mama, she said, why don't you and Daddy live together? I'd been dreading this question. We'd explain the basics. Mama and Daddy love you very much but don't live together, but she'd never asked why before. Because sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, I said carefully. And sometimes those mistakes mean they can't be married anymore. But that doesn't change how much we both love you. Did Daddy make a mistake?
Yes.
He did. Did you make a mistake? That one surprised me. What do you mean, baby? At my birthday party, Uncle Miguel said you made Daddy sad at a party before I was born. Was that your mistake? My Uncle Miguel had apparently talked a bit too freely around my daughter. I made a mental note to address that later. I told the truth about something Daddy did that hurt me. I said, sometimes telling the truth makes people sad. But it's still important to tell it.
Sophia thought about this.
Okay. I love you, Mama. I love you too, Sophia Grace. So much. She fell asleep minutes later, secure in the knowledge that she was loved. That was what mattered. Not the divorce or the scandal or the complicated custody. Just that she was loved. For years after the baby shower, I attended Lauren's wedding. She'd gotten engaged to a wonderful man named David, and she'd asked me to be a bridesmaid. I almost said no. Weddings were hard. They reminded me of my own, of the vows Daniel and I had made and broken. But Lauren was my best friend. I couldn't miss her day. The wedding was beautiful. And surprisingly, I felt nothing but happiness for Lauren. No grief over my own marriage. No bitterness about how mine had ended. Just genuine joy for my friend. At the reception, Lauren pulled me aside. Thank you for being here. I know weddings are probably tough for you. They were, I admitted. But I'm okay.
Really?
I'm happy for you.
You look happy, she said.
With Marcus. With Sophia. With your life. I am happy, I realized. It's not the life I planned. But it's a good life. The baby shower, Lauren said hesitantly. Do you ever regret it? How everything went down. I'd thought about that question a lot over the years. Sometimes, I said honestly, when Sophia asks questions about why her parents aren't together or when co-parenting gets hard. But mostly,
no.
I don't regret telling the truth. I regret that Daniel put me in a position where I felt I had to. You were brave, Lauren said. I was desperate, I corrected. And angry. And hurt. But I survived. That's what matters. When Sophia was 4 years old, Daniel got engaged. To someone new, not Amber, who'd moved to California years ago. A woman named Jessica who was kind and appropriate and good with Sophia. The engagement bothered me less than I expected. Daniel deserved to move on too. Jessica wasn't the one who'd hurt me. And Sophia liked her, which was what mattered. Marcus and I attended Sophia's preschool graduation together. Daniel and Jessica sat on the other side of the room. We were all there for Sophia, who sang her little song and waved enthusiastically at all of us. After the ceremony, we all stood outside taking photos. Daniel with Sophia. Me with Sophia. Marcus with both of us. Jessica with Daniel and Sophia. All the combinations of the complicated family Sophia had. And then Daniel said something unexpected. "Elena, can we talk for a minute?" Marcus took Sophia to get a snack, giving us privacy. "What's up?" I asked, wary. "I wanted to apologize," Daniel said. "Really apologize. Not the half apologies I gave back then when I was defensive and hurt, but a real one." I waited. "What I did to you was unforgivable," he continued. "I betrayed you in the worst way, at the worst time. I lied to you for months. I made you feel like you were crazy for being suspicious. And then when you exposed me at the baby shower, I acted like you were the villain, like you'd done something wrong by telling the truth. You did act like that. I agreed. I was wrong. You deserved better. You deserved a faithful husband, an honest partner, a real co-parent from the start. And I failed you in every way." He paused. "I can't undo what I did, but I want you to know I understand now what I put you through. And I'm sorry. Genuinely, deeply sorry." I looked at him. At this man I'd once loved, once married, once planned a life with. He looked older, more tired, more humble. "Thank you," I said, "for saying that. It doesn't change what happened, but it helps. Jessica and I are getting married in the fall," he said. "I wanted you to hear it from me. Sophia will be our flower girl if you're comfortable with that." "That's fine. Sophia will love that. We're doing it right this time," Daniel said. "No affairs. No lies. I learned my lesson. Painfully. Good. Jessica deserves that. And so does Sophia when she's watching you model what relationships should look like." We stood there in awkward silence for a moment. Then Daniel said, "You seem happy. With Marcus."
I'm glad.
"I am happy," I said. "It took a long time, but I got there." "The baby shower," Daniel said. "I hated you for that. For years. For humiliating me in front of everyone. But I understand now why you did it. You needed people to know the truth. You needed to take back power." "I get it. I don't need your understanding," I said. Not unkindly. Just factually. "But I appreciate it anyway." Marcus brought Sophia back, ice cream on her face, joy in her eyes. We took a few more photos, this time with everyone together, all the adults in Sophia's life united for her sake. It wasn't perfect. We weren't a happy blended family, but we were functional, cooperative, focused on what mattered. And what mattered was the 4-year-old with ice cream on her face who believed she was loved by everyone in that photo. Because she was. 5 years after that baby shower, I attended a conference for work. The keynote speaker was talking about crisis management and reputation recovery in the social media age. And she used me as a case study. 5 years ago, she said, pulling up a slide with a news article about the baby shower. A woman in Austin, Texas, went viral for exposing her husband's affair at her baby shower. The video was viewed millions of times. People had strong opinions. Some supported her. Some thought she was cruel. Some said she was justified. Some said she was desperate for attention. I sat in the audience, frozen. I'd known the baby shower had gone viral, but I hadn't realized it had become a case study. "What's interesting," the speaker continued, "is what happened after. This woman, Elena Rodriguez, didn't hide. She didn't apologize. She didn't try to walk back her public exposure of her husband. She just lived. She focused on her daughter, her career, her healing. She rebuilt her life without shame. And gradually, the story faded. Not because people forgot, but because she refused to be defined by it." The speaker pulled up another slide. It was a photo from my company's website. My professional headshot. Elena Rodriguez is now a senior director at her company. She's remarried. She co-parents successfully with her ex-husband.
She's moved on.
Not by hiding from what happened, but by refusing to let it be the only thing that defined her. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My story, told to hundreds of people as an example of what? Resilience? Crisis management? Public relations? After the presentation, I approached the speaker.
Melena Rodriguez.
Her eyes widened. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I should have asked permission to use your story. I just assumed. It's okay, I said. I was just surprised. I didn't realize I was a case study. You handled an impossible situation with remarkable strength, she said. And you survived the public scrutiny without backing down or apologizing for telling the truth. That's rare. Most people crumble under that kind of attention. You didn't. I didn't have a choice, I said. I had a daughter to raise. I couldn't afford to crumble.
Still.
You should be proud of how you handled it.
Proud.
Was I proud of the baby shower? Of the viral video? Of the public humiliation of Daniel?
Not proud, exactly.
But not ashamed either. I'd done what I needed to do to reclaim my power. To tell my truth. To survive. And I had survived. More than survived. I'd built something beautiful from the wreckage. That evening, I told Marcus about the conference. About being used as a case study. About the speaker's words. Does it bother you, he asked, that people still remember? I don't know, I admitted. Part of me wishes it would just disappear. But part of me thinks maybe it's okay that people remember. Maybe it helps someone else who's been betrayed. Maybe it shows them they can survive too. You're allowed to feel complicated about it, Marcus said. It was a complicated situation. It was the worst day of my life, I said. And also, in a weird way, one of the most important. Because that was the day I stopped accepting lies. That was the day I chose truth, even when it was hard. Even when it was humiliating. That was the day I became the person I am now. And who is that? Marcus asked. I thought about it. Someone who survived. Someone who rebuilt. Someone who refused to let betrayal define her entire future. I like that person, Marcus said. Me too, I realized. Finally. After all this time, I like who I am. 6 years after the baby shower, Sophia started kindergarten. She was 5 years old, confident and curious, and so loved by so many people. On her first day of school, both Daniel and I walked her to her classroom. Jessica stayed home. This was a parent moment, not a step-parent moment. Marcus also stayed home, understanding the same thing. We stood together in that kindergarten classroom, watching Sophia find her cubby and meet her teacher, and start this new chapter. Hard to believe she's already in kindergarten, Daniel said quietly. I know, I agreed. You've done an amazing job with her. We both have, but especially you. You've been her constant, her stability. I'm grateful for that. I looked at Daniel, surprised by the genuine emotion in his voice. Thank you. I mean it. I know I wasn't there the way I should have been in the beginning, but you were. You've always been there for her. She's lucky to have you as her mom. She's lucky to have both of us, I said. Even if we're not together. Even if it's complicated. She has 2 parents who love her. That's what matters. Sophia ran back to us, grabbing both our hands. This is gonna be fun, she announced. Then she let go and ran back to her new friends. Daniel and I walked out of the school together, heading to our separate cars, our separate lives. But connected forever by the 5-year-old girl who carried half of each of us. Elena, Daniel said before we parted ways. I know I've said this before, but I'm sorry. For everything. You deserved so much better than what I gave you. I did. I agreed. But I survived. And I'm happy now. That's what matters. You are happy, he observed. It shows. I was happy. Not in spite of what had happened, but having survived it and come out stronger. The baby shower, the viral video, the public humiliation, none of it had destroyed me. I'd used it, turned it into fuel for rebuilding. I'd built a good life, a home I loved, a career I was proud of, a partner who respected me, a daughter who thrived, a co-parenting relationship that worked. It wasn't the life I'd planned 6 years ago when I was pregnant and preparing for a baby shower I thought would be joyful. It was better, because it was real, honest, built on truth instead of lies. If you're reading this, if you've experienced betrayal or public humiliation or the destruction of everything you thought you knew, I want you to understand something. You can survive this. You can rebuild. You can create something beautiful from the ashes. It won't be easy. There will be days when you want to give up, when the weight of it all feels crushing. There will be moments of doubt, of shame, of wondering if you did the right thing by exposing the truth. But you did. Truth matters. Your dignity matters. Your voice matters. The baby shower was supposed to be about new beginnings. And in the end, that's exactly what it became. Not the beginning I'd imagined, a happy family with a faithful husband, but the beginning of something more important. The beginning of me standing up for myself. The beginning of me refusing to accept lies. The beginning of me building a life based on honesty and self-respect. That's the story I want Sophia to know when she's old enough to understand. Not just that her parents got divorced, but that her mother chose truth over comfort. That her mother demanded respect. That her mother showed her strength doesn't mean never falling apart. It means rebuilding after you do. That's my legacy to her. Not a perfect family or an intact marriage, but a model of resilience, of survival, of choosing yourself even when it's hard. And 6 years later, standing in a kindergarten classroom watching my daughter start a new chapter, I finally understood something I couldn't have seen back then. The baby shower wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. The most painful, necessary beginning of my life. And from that beginning, I built something worth having. If this story resonated with you, if you faced betrayal or had to make the impossible choice between keeping the peace and telling the truth, I want you to know, you're not alone. Your voice matters. Your truth matters. Your healing matters. Please share this story if it helped you. Leave a comment telling me your experience, whether you've been where I was or whether you're there now. And subscribe to this channel to hear more stories of survival and rebuilding, because that's what we do. We survive. We rebuild. We create new beginnings from painful endings. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being part of my journey. And remember, you are stronger than you know. You can survive this. And on the other side, you can build something beautiful. You deserve truth. You deserve respect. You deserve a life built on honesty. Don't settle for anything less.